Well, autumn arrived. It was a cold one this morning. We had the first frost of the year, which is a bit earlier than normal for Suffolk. And it essentially means that the flower farm is now done for the year. And gardening, there is still plenty to do in the market garden, but we are now transitioning into the non-growing phase and doing the infrastructure and prep phase instead. There is, of course, one animal on this farm that far prefers the cooler weather, and that's Oz. She is my snowy owl, and she doesn't like the summer sun. In fact, we have to give her ice packs in the summer to keep her cool. She loves this kind of cooler weather. Now, we've been super lucky though, because though it was freezing cold, look at the weather now. Beautiful. There is a chill in the air still, but it is a really lovely day. And if you look closely here, there are a few flowers still going on. We've still got a very few cosmos, although I took off 300 stems, I think, the past couple of days. And that was for a market and then for my veg boxes. Final veg box is today. And so I'm sending everybody off with a bouquet of flowers. So I took 300 stems off there. There are very few snapdragons in the distance, but they're not really any good. What happens at this time of year is it's a bit too moist, and so some of the petals start to get mouldy or rusty and you can't really use them. And with the frost last night, although it was light, the dahlias may be done for. Frost doesn't tend to show on dahlias that same day, but I expect they will start to blacken tomorrow, which means I'll have to think about what I'm going to do with the tubers. Now, it's fair to be said that I haven't had historically a lot of luck with dahlia tubers. If I leave them in the ground, they tend to rot because we've got heavy clay. If I dig them up, I never tend to be able to get them to overwinter. This year I'm going to try a two-pronged approach, and I'm going to leave some of the tubers outside and heavily mulch them, and I'm going to move some into the polytunnel and see if I can get an earlier crop in 2024. Now, though many of you might hate the coming of winter, for me, I'm excited because it heralds the time to sit down, take stock, think about what you've done right, think about what areas you can improve and plan for the next year. And also, I am a single person farm. I do it all myself, so actually winter is a really good time for me to get back on top of the things that maybe have got out of control, like weeds. And I have a video coming up in the next few weeks which is hugely exciting and will massively change my entire life on the farm and allow me to do so much more here and really get the farm on the right footing. And it's interesting watching the animals at this time of year as well, because there's the seasonal change and obviously the seasonal behavioural changes with animals. So for the sheep, for example, it is tupping season. So when the rams go in with the ladies and get put out onto pasture and make baby lambs. And I try and give my animals the best life possible, the most natural life I can, and the most free range I can where possible, because animals do get into trouble sometimes if you give them too much freedom. So it's a careful balancing act of giving them as much freedom as they can to live their natural lives, but also being that caretaker to say, okay, you need to be shut in for a few days to be wormed, or you need to be shut in or away from that section because you're going to fall in a stream. And I'm just looking for the Norfolks. And the Norfolks were on my meadow system over here, which is a system that's split into several small paddocks, and I move them on each day. But I moved them into the barn and they've been wormed, and I didn't want them to go back onto really dirty pasture. This pasture is still a little bit dirty because it's had sheep on it, so there'll be tiny amounts of worm eggs, but I didn't want them to go into these smaller pens, for example, where worm burden's likely to be higher. So at the moment, these pastures are all the electric is on, so they don't go in, and they are instead grazing all of the rest. Hello everyone. This is Beatrice at the front, so friendly. Hello love. Montague has done 7 of the 10 of them now, and as you remember as well, I didn't put the raddle on immediately because I couldn't find it. So actually those 3 that he's not tupped or that haven't got any colour on them may have actually come into heat the week preceding the raddle. So he's done a very good job, and they've got a lot of forage. They've got all of this grass up here which was grazed earlier on, and then they've got all this natural stuff that's full of thistles, which they love, other weeds, and of course the hedgerows. The goats continue to do a fabulous job clearing for me, and you can literally see where the hurdles have been. And then somewhere in this field is Oberon and his Jacobs. I'm actually going to climb up. Let's climb up the muck heap. I can actually see them. So this is the regenerative field that I talked to you about many times before, and they are right over there. I'm glad I have friendly sheep that come back to a bucket, because it's amazing how quick they disappear. And if you look how high this is taller than a sheep. And when Jacob fleece grows out, actually it becomes a bit more brown than black. So put a black and white or a brown and white sheep into this field, and it's very difficult to find them. Luckily, as I say, shout their names in the evening, shake a bucket, and they all come running. The teenagers are still super cute. I only have 3 left. I sold all of the rest to other farmers earlier in the year, and it won't be long before these guys are going to move out of here, because these 2 arcs are going to have Hyacinth and Margaret in them again, because there are impending babies. It's not ideal to be having piglets in the middle of winter. Warmth, and by that I mean the lack of warmth. Piglets aren't very good at keeping themselves warm, so they'll need lots of straw, and it might be that I actually end up having to take mum and piglets into the barn so I can rig up a heat lamp, but we'll assess the situation as it occurs. And also the need to have to feed them all through the winter when they can't forage as much. But I worked out actually if I wean them at 12 weeks, which is, I do like to leave them with mums a bit longer, they'll be ready to go February time. And actually perhaps people will be looking for some weaning and meat pigs at the beginning of the season, so it might not be terrible. I wouldn't want to have piglets, you know, ready to go in December, January, because I can't imagine anybody wanting to get piglets in the middle of winter, because of the amount of mud and cost they take.